What a Catch! A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction, Part 1. With special thanks to Eden Daphne on Tumblr for the use of her art in both the opening and thumbnail images. You can find a link to her Tumblr in the description box below. Dude, you caught the bouquet! Nino exclaimed, looking at Adrien in awe and respect. I am aware of that, he said, adjusting the arrangement before swinging them over his shoulder like they were a suit coat. Looks like your best man is a double, Alya piped in. What do you mean by that, my dear sweet wife? Nino asked, grinning at his new bride. He's a catch that can catch, she joked. Oh, stop that, you two. This is your day. You can worry about my love life tomorrow, Adrien laughed, giving his best friend a pat on the back. I hope it won't be too long before we get to see you in a church again, Alya said. I would need to get a girl first now, wouldn't I? Well, maybe if you'd stop being married to your work, you'd notice the girls around you who want to be with you. Yes, because all I want in life is a girl whose goal is to marry rich, Adrien sighed, glancing at the bouquet. He knew Plag would tease him about it if he brought it home with him, as though it were proof that he couldn't get over his teenage love for Ladybug. Oh, Marinette! Alya exclaimed, gesturing to her maid of honor to join her. Looks like the squad's back together, she smiled, nodding at Adrien in greeting. He had left to study in New York soon after graduation years ago, and she hadn't seen him in person until today, despite him being the best man. She knew she'd be staying up late with Tikki to talk about it. It's been a while, hasn't it? Adrien said, leaning in to kiss Marinette on the cheek. 3 years? 4? I don't think I've seen you since Hawkmoth disappeared, she smiled. I'm convinced that he's Ladybug, Nino cut in. I'm sorry? Marinette and Adrien turned to him in surprise. He's joking, Alya said, nudging her husband in the ribs. Adrien disappeared when Ladybug did, but Chat Noir's been seen around the city looking for her. I'm only half serious, Nino said, although I do think Adrien would make a beautiful girl. Yes, well, my modeling days are over, Adrien said, pointing to a scar on his jawbone. Where did you get that? Marinette suddenly cut in. He won't tell me. Every time I ask, he changes the story, Nino said, rolling his eyes. Will you excuse me? I have to go to the bathroom, Marinette said, rubbing her temples. Before anyone had the chance to answer, she had fled the scene, feeling the air escaping from her lungs. Are you all right? Tikki asked, flying out of Marinette's bag. Tikki, did you know? Did I know what? That Chat is in Paris. That he's looking for me. No, I didn't know that he was looking for you. But I knew that he's in town. Why didn't you tell me? I only knew because I saw him as a civilian. Marinette froze as she heard her Kwame's words. You, she began. You know who he is? Why didn't you tell me? It wasn't too hard to figure out. Besides, he's at this wedding. What do you mean? He's here? As a civilian? We're friends? You were, at one point. Why is he looking for me? He's in love with you. Still? You still like Adrien. That's... Marinette's voice trailed off as she realized she couldn't fight the truth. Do you want to meet him? Marinette's voice shook. She missed her partner terribly, but she was scared to meet him after all these years. Do you want me to get him? What? Marinette gasped, astonished at her little friend's proposition. Tikki, what if someone sees you? You could just walk out as Ladybug. No way. I haven't transformed in years. Alya would like it. Marinette sighed, knowing Tikki was right. A ladybug appearance would make her best friend's wedding day even more miraculous. Her voice trailed off. How will I know it's him? He'll let you know. He's been waiting for you all of these years, you know. She set down her bag and looked in the mirror, her earrings catching in the light. She couldn't bear to take them off, even when she slept. She thought about her time as a teenager, running away in the middle of the night to save Paris with a man she loved by her side. She had often wondered if she had fallen for him after they parted ways, but perhaps she just missed his companionship. He was her most precious person after all. Spots on. She felt the all-too-familiar warmth encompass her as her dress turned red and her false lashes turned into a mask. She glanced into the mirror, expecting to see her teenage crime-fighting outfit, but was surprised to see something different. A red dress with black spots and matching gloves. She felt encouragement in her chest to go out the bathroom door, one step at a time. Adrien felt Plagg sneeze from the flowers and excused himself from the room, hoping no one had heard him. You okay in there, bud? He asked. Why do there have to be daisies in there? Plagg whined, rubbing his nose. My scar is hurting again, Adrien sighed, touching his chin. I'm not surprised. She's here, after all. Adrien froze at his Kwame's words. She? As in... His voice trailed off, a mixture of excitement and fear. How do you know? I can feel her Kwame. Adrien gulped for air as he felt his throat close. Ladybug's here? At Nino's wedding? She's a friend of Nino or Alya? Plagg. Do I know her personally? He asked, his voice shaking. You went to high school together. He felt his legs give up beneath him and hit the ground. Ladybug went to high school with him. She was around his age. They had probably talked between classes, or at least seen each other in the hallways. Do you think that she ever recognized me? He asked. I don't know. I don't really care either way. Plagg, I need you to... Adrien was cut off by the screams from the dance floor. He immediately bolted out, his hand wrapped around his Kwame in case he needed to transform. What he saw, however, surprised him much more than any Akuma he had ever fought. Alya was wrapped around a girl in a black and red dress, sobbing. Ladybug. His air escaped him and he forgot how to breathe. After all these years, after all of the nights running out into the city as Chat Noir trying to find her, there she was, in a dress that would make his father jealous. He moved as though he was possessed, running towards her. Can you believe it, man? Ladybug showed up for the wedding, Nino said, slapping Adrien on the back and back into consciousness. This was no place to reveal himself. She's more beautiful than I remember, he whispered. I'm sorry, my dude. I didn't catch that. Adrien moved towards her as she broke away from Alya, ignoring his best friend. Ladybug, he said, placing his hand on her shoulder. She stiffened at his voice and whipped around at the sound. Her eyes grew wide as she looked at him, and he knew that she recognized him. He knew that she realized in that moment he was Chat Noir. He leaned in towards her, heart racing, and placed his hands on the small of her back and her neck. "I've missed you, my lady," he whispered in her ear. She froze at his words and looked up at him in awe. "Chat?" she whispered, drawing herself to his chest. "You're Adrien and Marinette?" Disappointed? She was at a loss for words, tracing the scar on his cheek, the proof that Hawkmoth got away all those years ago. "Had I known you were so close to me all this time, then I would have spent my nights these last few years differently." "I've missed you too, my lady." He kissed the back of her hand. "May I have this dance?" "Of course, Shantan." She smiled. It was the most honest smile she had given in years. Even without his mask, he was the man who loved her, flaws and all, to the point that all of her anxiety melted away with his Cheshire grin. "But you know what would make our friends even happier?" "What would that be, Bugaboo?" "If you slip away and transform into Chat Noir." "Only if you promise not to leave at midnight." Ladybug giggled and bit back a joke about being his princess. She was so happy to see Chat again, alive, that he was Adrien and Marinette hadn't quite kicked in yet. Besides, he didn't know that she was Marinette Dupain-Chang. "What just happened?" Alya exclaimed, pouncing on her idol as Adrien walked away. "Why are you here? What were you two whispering about? Where have you been all these years?" 100 questions tumbled out of the blogger's mouth as she struggled to pull her phone out to record. Ladybug said nothing as she waited for Chat to make his appearance. She had a special place in her heart for both him and Adrien and Marinette, and now that she knew that they were the same person, those feelings were beginning to fuse together. Her heart was a cocktail of eros and philia, swirling together and overflowing like sand that her hands couldn't hold. But which feeling would stay? Eros, the feeling of desire? Or will it be philia, the feeling of friendship? Thank you so much for listening. This was a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction. Part 2 will be coming out shortly. In the meantime, you can check out the playlist below for more Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction. One more shout out to Eden Daphne for allowing the use of her art in this video. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you next time.